My name is Zadek Agazarian, and I'm going to be arguing for the negative side. First off, I'll just point out the reason why speed limits are set is speed limits lower than speed considered safe and reasonable by the majority of motorists is based on the belief that lower speed limits reduce seizures and accidents. Also, it has been frequently suggested that most motorists drive 5 to 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit, so lower limits should be established to account for this condition. The University of Iowa did a study in 2001, and it said speed restrictions should advise drivers of limits within which a vehicle can be operated safely under normal conditions and allow sufficient time to react to unexpected conditions. Properly selected speed limits should facilitate efficient traffic flow, reduce violations, and promote safe driving. The affirmative stated that after the national maximum speed limit was repealed, fatalities decreased, but I have a study done by the American Journal of Public Health in 2009 that states that we estimate that between 1995 and 2005, approximately 12,500 people died as a result of repealing the national maximum speed limit. In the 10 states that essentially did not change their posted speed limits, we observed a substantial decline in fatalities and injuries in fatal crashes. Therefore, had the other states not raised their speed limits, we expect that similar declines would have been observed. In our study, we control for differences between the states, vehicle miles traveled, and congestion and posted speed limits. In the same study, it states that states that made no change to the posted speed limit, but expanded the number of rural interstate roads, which the affirmative wanted to abolish speed limit, included under the pre-existing 65 mile per hour speed limits, experienced significant declines in fatalities and injuries. We suggest that the average travel speeds were already 65 miles per hour across all rural interstate roads in these states prior to the legal change. These interstates are in fact the control group for the experiment of raised speed limits, and it is possible that the decline in deaths observed with the no change states would have been mirrored in all other states that those states had not increased their speed limits. I also wanted to point out that the findings are offset by improved safety in cars. If the safety of cars in 1975 had been the same, the fatalities and severity of crashes would have increased. A study by the American Journal of Public Health again states that during the period of our study, 1995 to 2005, we observed implementation of numerous protective countermeasures that may have reduced the overall effect of the rise in speed limits, including increased seatbelt use, more rigorous child restraint laws, and increased child restraint use. Mandatory dual front airbag laws passed in 1998, and enforcement of driving while intoxicated laws, which led to minor declines in the number of drunk drivers involved in fatal crashes. Improved vehicle and road designs may also have helped to offset the overall effect of increased speed limits on fatalities and injuries in fatal crashes. The affirmative also stated that higher speeds do not lead to lower fuel economy, but I have a study done by the U.S. Department of Energy in 2001 that states while each vehicle reaches its optimal fuel economy at a different speed, gas mileage usually rapidly decreases at speeds above 60 miles per hour. It says that you can assume that each 5 miles per hour you drive over 60 miles per hour is like paying an additional 24 cents per gallon for gas. And that's based on $2.86 per gallon, which is not the case right now. And you could also see the increased savings with the increase in gas prices. There was a study done by Journal of Safety Research in 2008 that increased speeds in Texas and California on some interstates. They state that we measured traffic speeds in Texas and California, two states that raised speed limits right after the national maximum speed limit was abolished. During the first year after 55 miles per hour speed limits for passenger vehicles on urban freeways were increased by 10 to 15 miles per hour. The percentage of passenger vehicles exceeding 70 miles per hour increased from 15 to 50% in Texas and from 29 to 41% in California. That just goes to show that increasing the speed limit did increase the average speed traveled by motorists. Also, the current safety equipment in cars does not handle higher speeds. There was a study done by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, and they say the higher the speed, the more likely that these limits will be exceeded in crashes, thus limiting the protection available for vehicle occupants. To put speed into perspective, note that government crash tests for occupant protection are conducted at speeds of 30 to 35 miles per hour, and these are severe impact speeds. Speed influences the risk of crashes and crash injuries in three basic ways. It increases the distance a vehicle travels from the time a driver detects an emergency to the time a driver reacts. It increases the distance needed to stop a vehicle once an emergency is received, and it increases the crash energy by the squared speeds. When impact speed increases from 40 to 60 miles per hour, a 50% increase, the energy that needs to be managed increases by 125%. So when you increase your speed a little bit, it causes a much more severe impact. Injuries become more severe as speed increases. In a high-speed crash, a passenger vehicle is subjected to forces so severe that the vehicle structure cannot withstand the force of the crash and maintain survival space in the occupant compartment. Likewise, as crash speeds get very high, restraint systems such as airbags, safety belts cannot keep the force on occupants below severe injury levels. A study done by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety states that speeding reduces the time drivers have to avoid crashes and increases the likelihood of crashing and severity of the crashes that occur. We all know when speed limits are raised, drivers who exceeded the old speed limits will exceed the higher limits too. Because people take note of limits and then travel faster at speeds which they believe they won't get a ticket. Abolishing national maximum speed limits speed law caused an increase in road fatalities. In the 10 years following passage of this law, there was a 3.2% increase in road fatalities attributable to raised speed limits, with the highest increases seen on rural interstates, 9.1%, which is what the affirmative wanted to abolish the speed limit on, and urban interstates, 4%. And they also talked about the Autobahn in Germany. And a study done by Georgia State Transportation in 2005 states that the German traffic fatality rate has been historically much higher than the US. Germany does not even have speed limits on most autobahns, for example, and long-standing claims point to the safety of these roads. Yet the death rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled on US interstate highways has generally been lower than the rate of autobahns. Fatality rates have been declining in both countries for many years, but the German rate has historically been much higher than the US rate. For example, there were 1.2 deaths per 100 million vehicle miles traveled on US interstate highways in 1975. Compared to
I gotta cut you off. You're more than a minute over time.
I